Hey everybody, it's Shamika. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell also, okay? I appreciate you guys' support. I did want to say thank you guys for helping me reach 10,000 subscribers. I appreciate it so very much. You guys subscribing, watching my videos, lets me know that I am doing something right. So thank you. All right, so we're gonna do a video today talking about shell corporations, all right? I am going to prove to a lot of you that you probably already have them. You just don't know it, probably because you never looked at it that way, all right? So I am going to call out the most popular types of shell corporations, let you know what they are, the difference between shell and shelf corporation, and what you should not do with these companies, all right? So here we go. Okay, so shell corporation, okay? Shell corporation can be an LLC, a corporation. Normally it is not a nonprofit, but it can be a nonprofit as well. A shell corporation, and I say shell like shell that an oyster actually would be in, and they call it shell because it is just let's see, how do I want to describe it? They call it a shell corporation because you can stick something in it that it holds, okay? So, I mean, we don't use shells to hold stuff, but if you were an oyster and you put a little pearl in your shell, that pearl will be the shell corporation, all right? So that is visually what it is, but what a shell corporation is to you guys is basically just a company that you set up on paper. It really has no benefit to you other than to use it when you need. I will give you an example. This is probably the most popular example. Remember during COVID season, pandemic season, years 19 and 20, 20 and 21. Let's do that. That's even better. LLCs were the biggest thing popping with every Secretary of State in every state, okay? Everybody was creating LLCs because you wanted to apply for a PPP loan, because you wanted to get an SBA EIDL loan. So if you or somebody you know ran out and created a LLC just for the purposes of applying for the government assistance or the government grants, the government loans, whatever, that is a shell corporation. Why? Because you weren't going to use it for anything other than that. It is just a paper company that is on file with the state, that you usually don't add in any employees on there. You don't really file any taxes on it. It is just there for GP, okay? So hopefully that explains what a shell company looks like for the majority of you that have probably never even heard of it, okay? Let's talk about the difference between a shell and a shelf corporation. The difference between the two really is just age, or shall I say time. I am a big advocate for individuals buying their children, loved ones, businesses versus gifts. Gifts get old, businesses, they get old too. And in this case, that's exactly what you want them to do. You want them to get old so that you in the future can sell to someone else and make a nice hefty profit off of it, all right? You will see that people normally open these companies in Wyoming, in Delaware, and I believe it's South Dakota, because they have really lax business tax requirements. So a lot of businesses will set up shop there. It's just easier, okay? You can have a shell corporation in any state, all right? You don't have to necessarily have it in those states. They can be in any state. Just those 3 states are the most popular. I didn't finish. Shelf corporation, shelf with an F. The reason that it's called a shelf corporation is because you would take that shell corporation and after you've created it, you basically would sit it on the shelf and you would let it age, meaning you would continue to pay the annual fee to keep the LLC or the company active, and hopefully you will go and put business credit on it. Now, you cannot place business credit on it and then tomorrow stop, okay? Business credit, if you do not use it, you lose it. So you would have to at least make a purchase once a year so that it does have some type of activity. Now, say for example, you bought one for your child at 5. As soon as your child turns 25, that is a 20-year-old business that someone who has a patent, who has an idea, they want to, start a brand new company, and they need funding. A lot of times they need funding from businesses that have been around for a while. And that is where you would come in with your shelf corporation. There are brokers who actually contact individuals who have these older corporations, and they actually work out a deal where you would temporarily let them hold on to it until they find you a buyer. And then once they find a buyer, they're going to do all the paperwork for you in the back end and switch it over. You get some money just because you kept that business active, and this other individual gets to do whatever they planned on doing with the business in the first place. Okay, so that is the difference between a shell and a shelf. Okay, shelf corporation, basically do what you got to do, sit it on the shelf and forget about it. Don't forget so much that you don't pay the annual registration fees, okay? Because you're going to be real mad thinking you got a 20-year-old doggone business, but really you got a 19-year-old bill because you did not pay for it for the last 19 years, all right? So make sure that you are doing that. Now, here goes the juicy stuff, okay? So during my research for this video, I was actually surprised to see that some of the things that we normally would create businesses for are considered to be a shell corporation. So some of you may have a shell corporation and not even know it. Now, I mentioned the EIDL, the PPP. If you created a business for that reason, that is a shell corporation, okay? Let me give you some other instances on where you could have a shell corporation. Now, you could have a shell corporation specifically to hold your, what do they call the word? Oh gosh, I'm not thinking of the word right now, but it'll come to me in a little while. But if you are patent, I'm not being able to say the word right. So you're going to trademark something, or you want to patent an idea. A lot of people will create businesses just to stick that a trademark under that business, okay? Same with the patent. Same if you had, if you were into real estate, you may not necessarily want an individual to know that you are the individual that owns these properties. So what you would do is form a LLC. More than likely LLC is what most people will select, and I'll tell you why in a second. But they'll form an LLC and they'll put their property in that. Okay, you can do, let me see. You can do copyrights. I mentioned trademarks, I mentioned patents. That's the word, intellectual property. I couldn't think of it for nothing, but intellectual property. So if you're somebody, you write music, and you may not want anyone to know that it's you. You may not want to use a pseudonym name. You say, I just want to get these things copywritten, and the owner is the company instead of me, okay? So you could do that with a shell corporation. So if you've done something like that, then you have what is called a shell corporation, especially the individuals who have real estate. And especially now, okay? If you're an investor and you're going out there and you're buying and flipping, I am almost certain that you are not holding all of that. Excuse me, I'm putting my notes away. I am almost certain that you are not putting all of your assets under you, which is not smart, because you become more liable for it. And I am also sure, and I'm hoping you guys are not doing this, is I'm hoping that you're not putting all of your real estate investments in one shell corporation, okay? If you have, 3 homes, 4 or 5 homes, there's nothing wrong with having an LLC for each one, or shall I say a shell corporation to house each one of them. You can do that if you choose. Yes, it's a little bit more organization. Yes, it's more money you would have to pay. But look at it from a lawsuit standpoint. Would you want all your eggs in one basket versus one egg in each individual basket, okay? You ask your own self that. Now, what are the reasons that individuals would choose an LLC versus a corporation? Some of those other, nonprofit ways of creating a shell. Why? Well, here is why. I just put two words together. And what that is, when you formulate an LLC, right now, an LLC is still what they consider a pass-through entity, meaning you can pass the taxes on to the owners. That sounds hard to understand too, but here goes an easier way. When you file your regular 1040 taxes, have you ever seen anyone add a Schedule C to their taxes, a profit and loss to their taxes, so that if they owed money, now when they have these write-offs for the Schedule C, they don't owe anymore. Why? Because the LLC allows you, the owner, to pass on the benefits from this LLC, the tax saving benefits, onto you, the individual. That is why it eats up any amount of tax liability that you own when you start adding in your expenses or mileage and things like that, because it does a pass-through, okay? So in a nutshell, the LLC is the only company that you can actually file on your personal taxes. You cannot do that with an S corporation, and you cannot do that with a corporation or a nonprofit, which is also a corporation, okay? So more than likely, if you're gonna have shell corporations, they're gonna be LLCs. There was a rule passed, and then I'll get into why or how people use these things illegally. I'm sure that's what a lot of you are probably wanting to know, so that you can make sure that you don't do it. There was an addition to the National, I believe it's the National Defense Act, where it states that the government, the federal government, is now requiring all states to make sure that when you are creating a business entity, that you have to list the owner's name. Now, can you believe that before COVID, individuals can create a business, and there's different states, I think one of them might have been like Hawaii, that you can create a business and do not have to put who the owner is. You just create a business and it belongs to nobody, out of thin air. Now, although that's great for privacy purposes, it's not so great when you're trying to sue. If you're somebody that's trying to sue that company, or if you're just doing things that are nefarious, illegal, and now you're making it hard for everybody else, okay? So there are states that people would seek out to apply for corporations, so that they can specifically do it without giving any information. Now, the only name that you did have to provide was the registered agent, and the registered agent could be the individual who's actually applying for the business, or it could be someone else that you assign, which could be another person. It could be another business. The registered agent is not the actual business owner. They really just intercept the mail in the event that the city or the state, excuse me, not the city, the state cannot get in contact with the owner. They would contact the registered agent. So the federal government was like, y'all not doing that no more. We're gonna change that. And now everybody has to put down who the owner is. Doesn't mean you can't lie about it. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with something called the Panama Papers, all right? Now, a lot of us are not ultra high wealthy individuals, so we may have not heard about it, but the Panama Papers is actually a document, or a bunch of documents that were leaked, that showed some of the tricks that the wealthy would do to hide their income. And guess what they would use? Shell corporations. Same thing you guys are using, or have used, or will use. So, and one of the best ways for them to hide that money was to do just that. Create that shell corporation, hire someone to be the owner of the LLC, although they had nothing to do with the business. It was legal. It's not illegal, because anyone could say they run the business as long as they're willing to say they run the business. More than likely you would do it for a fee, but there are scammers who do that. They actually get you, put your name on it, and in the event something goes wrong, guess who they're coming after? you, okay? So please don't do it unless you're doing it for somebody rich, because at least they're gonna be able to pay you in the event something goes wrong, all right? So I have given you the background on shell corporations, how some of you may have them, but now I'm gonna show you some of the ways that they've been used illegally. Let's just say that, all right? One way, false billing schemes. You guys probably have never heard of it that way, but here's what you may have heard of. Ghost employees, okay? So if you haven't heard of a ghost employee is basically an employee who does not exist other than on paper with your on paper shell corporation. So, give you an example. Say you have a business and you won a government contract. And I have a business on paper. And let me back that up. Say you have a business, you won a contract, but you also own another business that's on paper, the shell corporation. Now, you overbid it on this contract, which means you probably have, I don't know, $50,000 left over that you can use. But you don't want a paper trail showing that you spent the money on stuff that you weren't supposed to. So what do you do, or what do people do? They create a company like this shell corporation I'm talking about. They create an invoice saying that, hey, you bought 10,000 cases of water bottles. Guess how much it is? $50,000. Then you bill it to yourself, your real company, and you pay yourself that invoice to your shell company. And then guess what? Now you have found a way to funnel, or shall I say, what's the word that the government uses? It'll come to me. It's all the words are just gone right now, but basically you're funneling yourself money through your other business in order to make it appear as if you were paying for a service, whereas you were not. I came up with the word laundering. I was saying funneling, but it's laundering. So basically you are laundering that money from one business to another business. If you guys seen what happened with the guy in Florida that was about to be the governor, the black guy, I can't think of his name. He lost against DeSantis, but he just recently was arrested and charged with like 22 counts of fraud. Well, this was why. He took money from his bank account that he had kept his funding from campaigns, and he needed a way to access that money. Now, brilliance would say, just create another company, bill yourself for work, and then pay yourself out of that money. Well, in his case, he was not allowed to do that because that money cannot be touched. It should have been given back to the individuals that gave the donors, but he did not do that. In essence, he thought, I'll just create and I'll launder the money to myself through another business, okay? So that is one way that individuals use shell corporations. Now, let's use ghost employees again. And this is pretty big, okay? So we're gonna use the government contracts again. Now, say you have Company A. Company A doesn't have any certifications. It's just a regular business, okay? But you have Company B. Now, Company B is not yours. Say it belongs to me, your black friend. Now, my business has all the certifications that's needed, but I can't do the job. I don't bid on contracts, but Company A does. So what happens is individuals will bid on a contract and put my company, Company B, as the primary to get the contract, but the work is really going to be secured and done by Company A. Now, depending on what happens with the money financially, they would consider that to be money, to be misleading, okay? And people launder money that way. Now, Do people do that a lot when it comes to government contracts? Of course, it's called subcontracting, prime and the sub, okay? So a lot of times you have company A and company B, they link together to work on a contract and they use just one company because that company has the certifications. That does not negate that it is used as a shell company because it can be, okay? That is another way to secure contracts. And you, the individual, may or may not really have those certifications. You link with other people. Or you could have your own business and you could have several of them and have certifications on some of them and some you don't. Now, where it becomes misleading is when you are the owner of both of the company with the certifications and then you're also applying as the other company. So if you're a prime and a sub on your own contracts and you're using one of your contracts to get the contract, meaning you're using your certifications to get the contract, and then you're using your other one to do the work, that is where it becomes a problem. It's still a shell corporation, but then it becomes illegal, okay? But people do it. All right, another way, tax evasion. Now, this one is probably the most widely used, but a lot of people won't admit that that is what they are doing because nobody wants to hear the word tax evasion, right? It's just, okay? And just as a side note for you guys to know, tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is legal, okay? You can avoid paying taxes by deferring, by, some of the things I'm gonna say here with the shell corporation, but evading paying taxes, meaning you know you owe, but you still ran away and not paid them, that's illegal. But avoiding them, meaning I get to it, but just not right now, that's legal. All right. So, but people do tax evasion all the time. Give you an example. When you file your taxes, I mentioned this earlier, if you find out that you owe, and say you don't have any kids, say you're a single person and you file taxes, you didn't pay enough taxes, you owe $2,000, $3,000 and you don't want to pay it. So you say, hey, tax preparer, can you add my Schedule C? I got an LLC. Can you add the EIN and put it in and give me some expenses? That is tax evasion, not avoidance. Why? Because if you really had those expenses and mileage and all of that, you would have gave that to your tax preparer anyway. Being that you just pulled it out of nowhere just so that you can lower your taxes, that is evasion. So that is how you can use a shell corporation to lower your taxes, AKA evade paying the taxes that you owe. And boom, it's not right. It's illegal, okay? And at least now you know that that is a form of using a shell corporation, okay? And then, bribery and corruption. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all, I have been reading nothing but articles on how people come up with the different ways to skirt around the rules. And it's so funny how popular shell corporations are. They're not just popular for poor people, they are popular for rich people as well, okay? As a matter of fact, the SEC, they actually have a professional name for a shell corporation that they actually will allow you to use, but you have to designate it with them so that they know it's a shell corporation, but it's only for the purposes of mergers or acquisitions or whatever you're gonna do, okay? So the SEC will allow it, but who allows it for the non-rich people? Nobody, okay? I am seeing a lot of government officials. I'm not gonna say this person's name. I actually read this article last night. This person was a mayor out in close to Atlanta, and during COVID, the city that he was living in was given $6 million to disperse however they chose to disperse to the public. Well, this individual, smart, thought, well, why not, while I'm giving all this money to these businesses, and this is all tax-free money, right? It's grant money, you don't have to pay it back. How can I get some? So what did this person do? Created several shell corporations. And stupid part is you put yourself as the owner of every single one of them, okay? Now, I'm just gonna let y'all know, if you're gonna do crime, yeah, do it by yourself. But when it's financial crime, it is very difficult to do anything by yourself because it's a paper trail. But this individual thought, I'm gonna do it by myself. Cool. So this person was dispersing money out to the members of the town. And a part of the stipulation of giving the money to businesses was, hey, make a donation of the money we gave you to such and such company. Well, guess what? That was the individual's company. So not only were you giving these people free money from the federal government, you were having them take some of that money to pay you, and it was laundered to your businesses that you don't report on your taxes. What is that called? Tax evasion, y'all. What else did this person do? Created a company with a fake employee, better known as a ghost employee, and this person allowed this ghost employee to have a salary so that the company could not look like a shell corporation in order to win contracts. Well, guess what happens when they dig through to see who owns the company? It has that person's name on it again. What a coincidence, right? So if you're gonna do these things, you can't have it all. Your name can't be on everything, okay? But that's what happened. The person was able to get away with it for a little while until it was audit time, okay? And not to mention, people were doing this. Why? Because if you give me $100,000, but you tell me I gotta take 10,000 of it to pay somebody that I don't know, I'm gonna complain, okay? Because why did you even give it to me in the first place, right? You don't give me money to give somebody else. That's not the agreement. So this person actually shot themselves in the own foot by trying to be smart. Now they're gonna have to go to prison, okay? That was clear misuse of government funds. If you're a government employee, I've been one. So this is one thing we've always used to hear, that we should always be good stewards of the public's money. Why? Because it's tax money that paid for that $6 million that was sent to this town, okay? Now, how much this person actually got away with, of course, they're not gonna say specifically, but I'm sure they did good. They paid a house off. They were able to get a couple cars. They paid the fake employee real money to help be quiet and hold, the secret together, and paid for dinners and trips and all kinds of stuff. So some of that stuff, it gets hard to put a price on, but they did use some of that money that was not theirs. And now, like I said, they're in trouble, okay? So let me see, make sure I went up. So I went through the shell corporations and talked about the ghost employees. I did the government contractors and how people use it as a subcontract. You can't own both, okay? You should be bidding just one time. Now, if you're a member of another one, when it comes to government contracting, that's different, but you cannot be the owner of the prime and the sub and think that nobody's gonna pay attention to it. They are, okay? We talked about the difference between the tax evasion and tax avoidance by using shell corporations, on your Schedule C to lower your taxes. We talked about how you can pay invoices, okay, as a way to funnel, or shall I say launder money from your business to another business. That's exactly what a lot of people did with PPP, in order to say that they were paying employees, not even employees, to say they were paying business expenses. What they did, instead of actually going and getting real receipts, they were creating fake invoices from their other company. And it would qualify as a business expense. And that is how they were able to get around that 40% requirement on PPP. I write myself an invoice for the whole amount of whatever that 40% was. And boom, now I met the requirement to get my loans forgiven. Let's see. People also use several companies to launder money from, account 1 to account 2, then to account 2 to account 3, account 3 to account 4. So a lot of times they just use it to transfer money to a bunch of different bank accounts, hoping it would throw law enforcement or the banks off of their trail by seeing that the money is just constantly transferred, okay? That is usually like telltale sign number one, when you're constantly transferring the money. If it's sitting in this account here now, and now a full balance was transferred in, and then a couple of weeks go by, now the full balance is transferred out, the account never really has any money in it, may have a couple dollars, but every time you put something in, you turn around and you're taking it and moving it, they pay attention to those things. Let me see. Yeah, and then I did about the fake invoicing for contractors. So basically, I think we went over everything. I'm just gonna look. Y'all know I like to make sure I'm not missing anything. Just remember though, the National Defense Act has changed, okay? And now you will have to give up all of your information. But here goes something that a lot of people did not know, and I'm gonna let y'all go because y'all know I don't like to do long videos. But if you incorporate, did you know that you can incorporate in one state and then turn around and use that incorporation name as the owner's name when you incorporate in another state? Now, I know that probably blew your mind, but let me break it down a little easier. If I went to New Mexico, their Secretary of State, and I created a company called 123Me, right? Then I went to Florida and created 1234Me in Florida. I can put the owner of my 1234Me as 123Me, the one that is in New Mexico. Okay, so you can check with your Secretary of State to see if you are allowed to do that. I'm not encouraging people try to hide their identities. If you're not doing anything crazy, it really shouldn't matter if you put your name down or not. But I know people just don't like people in their business, and they want to have, anonymity. I get that. Since you're not you may not necessarily be able to do it setting up a corporation anymore, you can still take that name and use it as the owner of the new one. Now, is it still gonna ask you for your name? Probably. Does it make it a little harder for individuals to have to go and look? Yes. Now, what makes it really hard is if you have foreign companies. So if you are a subsidiary of a foreign company, and once they trace who that foreign company is and they see that, oh, well, that foreign company wasn't created in Russia, it was actually created in China. Now, you know how difficult it is for them now to go and try to pull those records. So a lot of people who are not from the United States, they have a better chance of getting away with laundering than a lot of us citizens do, because we may not even know how to create a company out of the country, okay? But that is probably the only way that people will be able to use a shell corporation to hide their identity these days. That's probably the best one. If you guys know more, of course, put it down below or send me a message, because y'all know I'm gonna make a video about it to let other people know, okay? Let me see. All right, so I think that was it. So we can put real estate in our shell corporations. We can use it for holding intellectual property. Hostile takeovers, most of y'all don't have to worry about that. That's usually for larger companies. That is one of those that I said that the SEC will allow you to be a shell corporation without saying anything. Same with reverse mergers. These are big, larger things that businesses can do that we as people do not get to do. And of course, tax avoidance, all right? So I believe I covered everything. So if you guys have any questions, y'all know me, I'm always looking to see if I'm missing anything. Please ask, drop anything below. If you have a shell corporation or you found that you are one of the individuals that I'm talking about. Now, I'm not asking you to rat on yourself or tell on yourself, but if you found or know somebody that has used a shell corporation in one of the ways that I mentioned, just drop me down a star, okay? That way you don't have to put out your business, because we're trying to keep it over here, okay? Now remember, everything I teach is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Thank y'all for contacting me all the time to ask me questions offline. I hope I can help you guys, keep using your shell corporation. Hopefully make it a shell corporation and sell and make you some money. And hopefully don't use these in the ways that are could possibly get you guys in trouble. Now you know, you can't say you didn't know. And we're just gonna go with that, all right? Until the next video. See y'all again. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share my videos. I appreciate your support. Bye.